I guess first of all, just how are you and your family doing right now?
Right now, it's a good day. We got a large document upload. The more information we have, the better we feel. It's 2.5 years into, wait on some of these pieces of information that we've been hearing about from the day that this happened. It just feels good to have it out. And I've always believed that the truth will set you free, and you should never hide factual information that the jury's going to be presented. It's just stuff that regardless of it, you're gonna see it, and it's the things that a gag order leads to, where people start going to alternative media and starts finding these. They call it speculation, but it's just lies. It's just people making up theories. So it's nice to have true factual information out there for people to digest, go over and analyze, because there's a lot there. There's a lot to go over, and these are dark days for the defense.
I guess speaking of, it seems like there's a new piece of information that comes out constantly about what happened that night. For you, as the father of Kaylee, I mean, how is that? Do you brace yourself for each piece of information that comes out? I mean, how does that work for you?
This is my family, so I expect to take on a brunt of that information, so it gives me a chance to be the father. Olivia's right there with me. She's headstrong, very headstrong. So she's digging into the docs. She's probably sent me 2 or 3 docs since we've been on this interview. So it allows me to be back in control of some of the things that are regarding my family. You see all these strangers just take your life and dangle it in front of you and just tell you, you're going to go here, you're going to go there, you're not going to see this, this is going to be sealed. It's a hard experience to go through, but like I said, today's a good day, and it's nice to have true information out, something to digest, something new, something that collaborates what you've been hearing the whole time. So it's good when these pieces all come together, but it's a struggle. 2.5 years is a long time to wait.
I can't even imagine what you all have been through. Um, I know recently, the 911 call came out. I guess, first of all, how was that for you and your family when you first heard it?
Honestly, it's terrible. Um, my wife never wanted to hear it. She still doesn't hear, she still hasn't listened to it. She probably never will. Um, I know other mothers don't want to hear it. Nobody really wants to hear it, but I've always said, if you're going to arrest somebody and take them off the street for years, you better have the evidence, and you better show it to people. And I don't want to live in a place where we can lock people up and then hide all the evidence and just say, you're going to have to trust us. You're just going to have to realize that we know more than you know. And it's like, well, then show us the information and let us make our own decision. So it's good and positive in that aspect. But I know those girls that did those calls, the people that were in there, and I know that this is now, they've been tossed in the same bucket as us, that where you get victimized and you're feeling like the whole world's staring at you and criticizing everything you say, everything you do, wishing you would have done this and that, and hindsight's 2020. It's an impossible world that we you guys on media have to put up with and deal with. I have a whole new respect for people who can sit here in front of a camera and speak articulately and hit all the points, never make any mistakes. It's not an easy thing to do. People think that this is all scripted, but a lot of times this is live, and it's one and done, and these are the things you don't want to know about. But when a tragedy like this happens, you catch up and you get into, you get in a whole new another mode. But I really feel for those girls, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. They had nothing to do with this. 19 years old. I mean, put yourself in a 19-year-old's perspective. How many times have you heard something, you thought something was a noise you heard in the backyard or noise you heard in the front of your house, and you went to bed, you didn't mind anything, and then the next day you wake up and you notice that, your window was broken or something happened, you kick yourself, saying, I heard something, but I just talked myself out of it. I didn't have any idea that it was something legit. I think these girls are probably feeling something like that, or that's the closest thing that I can, put myself in perspective. But I know for a fact that my own daughter had scenarios where she felt like her life was in danger, and she called me rather than call 911. So, you know, 19 years old, I wouldn't expect anything other than what happened, and I think those detailed records show exactly what happened, exactly where they are. People don't realize that when you combine that with the CAS system, they know exactly what happened on those phones, and it's a perfect timeline that tells them everything that happened that night and the following day.
Are you in contact with them? Have you talked with them since this 911 call came out?
Um, Not really. I'm gonna leave it at that, but I think they've kind of reached out in a proxy way. So, yeah. And then the courts kind of tell us, what they're thinking and what they're going through. So we know a little general aspect of it. I was asked to give a little bit of a heads up because, me and Christy have spent a lot of time, praying and talking to the girls. And one thing that we kind of got a really overall feeling was, we could do more to protect the victims and help them get through this and not be the victims outside of their behavior. Don't attack them. Don't have them. Make sure people understand they had nothing to do with it. It is what it is. All these digital records support exactly what happened. You couldn't have walked down the street and not had those FBI agents and the systems that they put in place there. They probably know exactly what floor they were on, when they went up, when they went down. The technology they have is amazing. So, all these people who are so-called speculators just lying to you. The truth is they know exactly where those girls were, exactly what they were doing, and they had nothing to do with this. They did everything that I would expect from a 19-year-old girl that was going through a weird scenario where I mean, at 10 o'clock the next day, she's checking her resume for a job. They had no clue. So, look at those little details and, put yourself in their perspective. And, you know, if you can't handle it, go find another case to follow, find something else to do because we don't want you attacking them.
Steve, we were talking about those, filings that were coming out, right? And how there's so many of them coming out. I know you've been paying close attention to them. In one of them recently, it talked about alternative perpetrators and how there could be others, dozens of others who could be behind this. What are your thoughts on that? Do you still think they have the right guy?
Oh, I know they have the right guy. The DNA under, Maddie's leg, under a blanket. You don't get your DNA at a crime scene when you have nothing to do with the crime scene, and then it just happens to have surveillance of like five cameras that have your white car driving around. Um, how many teenagers do you know, or somebody that's 28 who just turned their phone off in the middle of the night with 90 some percent battery life? And it's my understanding that they know if how the phone was turned off. So this individual went out that night. The chances of you even being driving around that night are pretty slim. You know, 240 something. He left his house, turns his phone off, and goes and does some convert stuff. Look at this guy thinks he's smarter than Idaho. He thinks he's way above us, and he's gonna get away with it. He's gonna, trick everybody. He's got his PhD, fancy degree, and he thought he could come out here and kill and get away with it, become some kind of famous serial killer. But I don't think it's going to end well for him, and I think he's going to realize that Idaho doesn't play, and he's got some scary days ahead of him.
How do you feel about, these autism claims and, trying to remove the death penalty off the table?
Um, for as smart as he was really stupid, you know. I hate to say it, but if he would have did those crimes in Washington, he would be looking at a whole different reality. He would not be looking at the death penalty. He would not be looking at people that are really going to be engaged in the case at the level that they are. The reason this case is blown up is because in Idaho we really care and we don't take a murder like this, you know, lightly. And people being killed in their bed while they're asleep, going to school, you know, trying to improve their lives. That's like the last place you should actually be, you know, facing a circumstance like that. So, you know, I think he was kind of foolish. He was kind of foolish, and the only thing that makes sense to go from one state that you live in that doesn't have the death penalty to one that does have it, by choice means that he disrespected everybody that is a citizen in Idaho, and he thought that we wouldn't have the conviction to follow this case all the way through. And the risk of going to a death penalty state made more sense for him. And that was a strategy that he used that is still going to be played out to this day to figure out how bad of a move that truly was.
I know out of a lot of the families, you've been there front and center. You know, you've been at different hearings and throughout this entire time. What is it like for you when you see Kohberger in court?
You want to do all kinds of illegal things that you're not supposed to even talk about, but you know, you can think about them. You know, crimes of the mind, at least that's not illegal yet. But it's hard, you know, it's terrible, you know, you're put in a position to protect your family and you get have one of the worst days of your life and you just keep having to relive it over and over and over until, you know, it gets itself through the process, you know. So it's terrible, but uh, in some ways I was built to handle the kind of, you know, hate and grief that you get for this. And I feel um in a way, I'm glad that the other families that came forward and just said, "Hey, Steve, run with it. It's you. You have it. If you can handle it, then you know, go ahead and speak freely." So I have that flexibility to know that I'm speaking for some other people, and these, especially with Maddie May. I mean, that was my girl, and we tell people we didn't lose one girl, we lost two, and it's just more work for us to do, more reasons for me to speak out and you know, come home from work and sit here, fire up a computer and do a little interview. It's the least I can do for what those victims went through that night. Um, it's it really is an honor for me to be able to talk to them and bring some clarity to the facts, you know. We're really that's what we're talking about today is things that came out of court, not speculation, not rumors. These are things we really, really should be pointing to, and it's a weird, sometimes an upside down world where courts feel like pressured to hide the evidence, and I'm still not fully understanding why that's a good strategy. If the facts of a case make you feel guilty or it makes other people think you're guilty, chances are you're guilty, you know.
You know, you were talking about the facts of the court and coming out in documents and whatnot. I believe there was one document recently that came out that talked about, I think it mentioned, you know, a family member, perhaps you, of Kaylee's that was wearing a shirt talking about the firing squad. Um, have you seen that? What are your thoughts of that, of being kind of named specifically or pointed out when it comes to things like that?
You know, there's going to be these weak attempts of people to try to silence us. You know, they want to silence somebody who's a vocal aspect of the case, and I'm not worried about it. It has nothing to do with us. I have never worn anything. I don't even know what the details are of that. I would love for someone to show me some proof of that, and don't show me some picture of us walking around the courtroom outside of the courtroom with some shirt because I'll wear whatever I want. That's my right as an Idaho citizen and member of America. We can wear whatever we want out in public, but we don't wear it in the courtroom. So, you know, that's just a tactic. But if they're focused on me, then they're not focused on the real important issues. So, whatever, you know. It's doesn't bother me one bit.
Last week, Idaho, the governor signed the bill into law that the firing squad is now the main primary execution method. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, it's a dark subject matter, but Idaho deserves people to do the best that they possibly can to represent them and to address things like this. So it's a harsh reality, you know. Unfortunately, we have people that come from states like Pennsylvania and kill us. You know, it sucks. You know, another person from Pennsylvania went and shot at the president. Another one from Pennsylvania went and shot at CEO. But the best thing you can do in those type of situations is have the infrastructure and the politicians that want to support everyone and make sure that you know, we set an example that this isn't a place where we're going to tolerate this type of behavior. You know, everybody makes mistakes, you know. It's not like a traffic accident or drinking and driving or drugs or something like this. This is somebody playing God and ending people's lives. So we c- we got to make a determination. Is this something that we're going to put, we're going to draw a line in the sand and be done with this type of um, decision making? And I think Governor Little, he's an amazing man. You know, he sees what happened to a group of his citizens, and he put it in action. And that's what you want from a politician. You want a politician that sees something happen to his community and he doesn't sit about it and cry about it and talk about it and moan about it. He goes and he changes things. He addresses the law to address what's happening to his citizens. And I think we're pretty lucky to have a guy like that in a position as governor. So I'm glad to see that he's went forward with that.
You talked about, losing two girls. For folks who may not have known Kaylee and Maddie, what were they like?
Two girls that were like friends that became sisters. They both met at a private little charter academy, which was like a nightmare to them. They had to wear like uniforms, and these are two girls that probably like dreamed of looking with fashion and style going to school, and they had to wear these uniforms. So I think Maddie had something in her hair, and it caught Kaylee's attention. She thought, you know, if she's wearing something like that, she's pretty inclined to like the same things as she did. And I think they started talking about girl stuff at Taylor Swift, both fans. So they they hit it off and they'd been friends ever since, you know. So I've told other people we taken trips across into different countries. Kaylee went to Hawaii with them for at least a week. So these girls were very close. They were like sisters, and to this day we have questions of like details, and we're always thinking we can go out and ask Maddie May, and we're like, we can't, you know. That's when it hits you is when you're thinking like who could confirm what she was wearing, what she was doing, and you always think of Maddie. And I know that Karen said the exact same thing where she's got something that she needs to know about her daughter, and her first person to think of is Kaylee. And then you realize at that moment that you really been hit. You've kind of been sucker punched with two different people that are supposed to be in your lives. My son and my sisters, these are people that were at their weddings. These were their best friends for life. So yeah, 100% we lost two people that were part of our lives and were supposed to be a part of our lives to the very end. So we that's why we're focused on this case.
I'm so sorry. What do you miss most?
Just just their laugh, their playfulness, the hugs when they were about to come into the room, the hugs when they were going to leave the room. You know, if the kids were ever going to go somewhere, even if they were going to run to the store to buy us something, you know, we would give that hug. Always left saying we loved him, you know. And that's why I know the last thing I ever said to my daughter was I love her. When she jumped in her car and went down to a dance and had a dance, she was a dance participant with one of the people that survived. You know, that's how close of a friends they were. These guys were all good friends. So, you know, hopefully people can put that in perspective and understand that, you know, that there's only one bad guy, you know, and That's who we should be focused on. Go look at these facts of the case. Go look about, the white car, the surveillance, the K bar that showed up at his house, the multiple witnesses that's seen him in possession of it. Go look at that. And then that's what you should pay attention to. None of the stuff that people are saying on YouTube or Reddit or wherever you're hitting it. The court should be treated completely different. The facts coming from there should be honored, and that's what we strongly encourage.
Do you have a message for him?
We're coming, and we're coming. You picked Idaho, and everybody in this state, everybody in this state is watching this case. So, I don't think it would have been that big of a deal in Pennsylvania, but every action has a reaction. So your decision to pick in this community will play out, and I look forward to that.
Well, thank you so much, Steve. I truly appreciate your time. I know you have to hop on to another call. Is there anything else you'd like us to know or our viewers to know that maybe I didn't ask you?
No, but you hustle, man. You've been after this interview for a while, so I respect your hustle, and you earned it.
Well, thank you for making time for us. I truly appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Well, okay, I'll let you go, but thank you again, and please keep us posted on whatever comes next. 'Cause I know you guys are dealing with so much, and none of us can imagine. So thank you.
All right. You have a great day.
Thank you. I'll let you go. Bye.